Yo, big up, wagwan, where you depan, why pre, where you deal with up top, blessings, don't know, there again, another one, and this is actually, excuse me, an hour or so after the second leg of the semi-final has ended between Inter Milan and AC Milan. So I did see that Inter Milan won on the day 1-0 to go through to the final 3-0, and the game tomorrow, the second leg of the second semi-final, will decide who will join them in that final. So Inter Milan versus either Manchester City or Real Madrid. So yeah, massive game. But just to pull back from that slightly, just a little bit, I'd love to speak on the Everton versus Manchester City game. I didn't get a chance to do that aside from about 5 minutes in my instant match reaction that I did after the game on Sunday. So regarding this game, everyone who knows me knows that I was saying that this is going to be a massive game for Manchester City's season. Not the second leg of the Champions League, but this Everton game, playing Everton away. And a lot of people might have looked at this as, instant 3 points. And big up to the girl RK in the chat. I appreciate you being here. Notifications, gang. Of course, of course. Um, but yeah, I always was saying this is a massive game. I said that after the first leg of the semi-final, that if that game or if either of the Champions League legs are a 10 out of 10 in terms of game importance, this Everton game is a 9 out of 10, because if we lose this game, Arsenal is playing directly after us. And they might look at that like Liverpool would, where we know if we drop points, they are definitely capitalizing on that, regarding our previous title races with them. So we can't give them that sniff to say, this is your chance to breathe hope back into your title hopes. And the fact that we won the game, or going into the game, the fact that we could win the game and inflict that reverse damage on them, where they would be like, oh, City are just gonna win everything. This is a game that I'm sure they would be looking at saying, Everton are fighting for their lives. Maybe they could get a job done. But just before their game, if they had watched that, that might have taken a bit of wind out of their sails. And Brighton, who are a really strong team with European aspirations this season, just might be able to get a job done against them at the Emirates. And that is exactly what happened. That is why these games are massively important. And we saw earlier in the season Arsenal going against West Ham and Southampton. They were too busy thinking about their Liverpool game where they dropped points, and started looking at the Man City game, which is after both of these games. So they're looking over them, and those again were stumbling blocks for them. So the experience that Manchester City has from going through these title races in the past shows in games like this, because even though we did rotate, like people when they think Manchester City is going to rotate, they think this is the team here that we're going to see on the pitch, like Rico Lewis, Cole Palmer, Perron, and Sergio Gomez. No, we're still going to put in players that would start in our strongest team. So you will see a player like Haaland play. You will see a player like Rodri, Gundogan, Akanji, Diaz, Walker. These are we'll still start them, because we know we have a massive job to do on the day, and the hope is that we can win these games early, bring them off, and then see out the rest of the game afterwards. And then the rotational pieces like Laporte, Alvarez, Mahrez, Foden, these guys still have that quality to not be too big of a fall off from our main starting players who would be playing over them. And in some cases, these players would be starting in our strongest team because they have that quality within them. So that I think that's just a little bit of a misconception that rival fans have, and the fact that we make a few rotations and then they look at our team, which is this is still a strong team. They say, oh, we have all this depth, which is just not the case. We just use our players really well, and Pep does an amazing job with rotating the team. So first man I want to speak about is this guy here, and I want to do this review of the Everton game fairly quickly because that game tomorrow. Yeah, I know you see it in the title. Massive, massive game, and that deserves like laser focus attention. So I want to get through this and then go directly into that where we can go through all the main points I want to speak of before the game, and let's see how many of those come true after the game, because I definitely see some interesting things happening in that game. I don't think it will be boring like that. In my opinion, the second leg today with Inter Milan and AC Milan, that game was that could have had more life in it, to say the least. I don't think we'll see that type of game tomorrow. I don't think either team will bring that type of energy. I think it will be very intense, and the quality will show through. But back to Everton. For me, Gundogan is man of the match, and I said he didn't have his best game against Real Madrid in the first leg. I'm starting to think that I owe this guy an apology. Not because I'm not familiar with his game, but I think that is more due to the collision he had with Rudiger, because in that first 20 minutes when we were in the Bernabeu knocking the ball around and they couldn't touch it at their home ground, we're looking like the home team in Spain. Gundogan was a massive part of that in terms of the control that we had in the game at that point in time. So I think that after that in the incident with Rudiger, he started slow down a little bit, and I think it took a while for him to really like gain a foothold in the game after that, and I think that started to come through again when he set up KDB for his goal. So in this game again, he basically continued from where he left off against Leeds, because he put in a massive two-goal performance. I know he missed that penalty after that, but that was not the end of the world. And I don't want to dwell too much on that negative, because we did end up winning the game still, and he did still have a brilliant performance. So in terms of his individual performance, he was great. And then again against Everton, who they, to be fair, they had a great run in the first 30 minutes or so. Like, it was very equal, I would say. They had their fair share of chances, and they were defending really well, because we tried to string some stuff together before Gundogan got his first goal, and it took Mahrez basically doing exactly what he did in the Leeds game, because he was the one who assisted both of Gundogan's goals against Leeds, and in our first goal against Everton, he's the one coming up with the goods again. He puts a brilliant cross into the box. Gundogan, absolutely magnificent. One tap off him knee, and then the next flicking at the back of the net. Pickford never. He didn't even know what was going through that man's mind, and it wasn't even an accident. He definitely planned that. If you look at him, like, he's thinking, I'm in a tricky position here. My back is to the goal and I'm controlling the ball. Like, I probably won't have too much time to get something off here, but I'm just going to try it. Like, I'm going to see what I can do and get this on target. And that was all he needed to do, because no, I think that already big claim for goal of the month. I want to see another goal break that, because that was a brilliant goal. So big up to Gundogan, man. Definitely big up to Gundogan. And I see questions going around now, like, where does he rank in terms of City legends? Definitely he eats at that table where we're talking about our best midfielders to play for the club. For me, at least, he definitely sits at that table. And in terms of the rankings, let's leave that for another day. We can have that conversation another day. And I would love to see, as the captain of the team, what trophies we lift at the end of this season, because that will have a big impact on where he sits in that list for me. So maybe we can discuss that in another video later down the line. But trust me, man, Gundogan, brilliant. Um, Alvarez in the midfield. I rate Alvarez so much. So my first thoughts with Alvarez coming to City is that he, as a player, he seems like a mix between uh, Sergio Aguero and Tevez. And I know a lot of people say that, but I think it's because you have a lot of City fans who look up to these guys as strikers, as like brilliant footballers, and you see the stuff that they do for the club, the big moments that they have, and how they get themselves out of situations, and then when you see that type of enthusiasm in their gameplay in another player, you can make that comparison. Like, you know what? I see the link that's going on here. So I don't think a lot of people are wrong to big up Alvarez in that way in terms of his playstyle, not in terms of his actual footballing level, because Alvarez is at the start of his career right now. So I wouldn't say like he is on Aguero's level or on Tevez's level throughout their best times at City. I wouldn't. I'm not definitely not saying that. But in the midfield, I still think he needs a lot of time to grow into this role. So I think Pep wants to groom him into that KDB role to where, like, he's that dynamic midfielder. Gundogan is there for his control mainly. Also, he chips in with goals as well. But if he's not scoring goals, we're not saying Gundogan had a terrible game. He's mainly there for his control and what the power that he brings to a Pep midfield. Like, we retain the ball a lot better with Gundogan in the team. Our passing stats are a lot better with Gundogan in the team. We maintain a lot more possession with Gundogan in the team. We control games a lot better with Gundogan in the team. And he can control the speed of a game whether he wants to speed it up or slow it down. Alvarez, on the other hand, I think he's there to manage the transitions and progress the ball up the pitch like a KDB would do, but I don't think he has that KDB-esque quality, that je ne sais quoi that KDB has, why he handles the transition so well. I think Alvarez needs more time if he's going to develop into that role, and I still think his best role as of right now is in the striker position. But that's not to say that he can't play this midfield role. I just don't want eventually, he's put there, he doesn't have his best of games, and we lose a game or a drop points, and people are crying like, we should have had KDB here. I'm not expecting KDB things from Alvarez, but I think he will develop, and if Pep trusts him there, I think he's going to become that type of player sooner or later. At least get more of the traits that he needs. Um, Haaland, I think Haaland was decent in the game against Everton. I say decent because he wasn't really in the game for a majority of the game. We tried to get him integrated into play, but that wasn't really coming off too often. And the one real chance that he got came from Gundogan putting a brilliant cross into the box, and he heads it home. Like, he jumps and he's like over the crossbar and heads it in. Like, this man is insane. Like, this is, we say robot and we say it as a joke, but yo, this man is something else. Definitely something else, man. And it was so refreshing to see Gundogan put that cross in, because throughout the game we take our corners, we're short cornering and we lose the ball, or because we did the short corner and then Everton press us, we're rushing a shot and it just off target or just something, and it's like sometimes I get we want to change it up and just not put the ball into the box every single time, but something can change. Like, we can actually put the ball into the box half of the time. Like, switch it up, maybe short corner no, but then next time we put it in the box, or two short corners and then the next time we put it in the box. It's very frustrating to see like 5 short corners in a row and all of them fail. And then Gundogan, who I think is really good on putting corners, putting crossing a corner ball into the box better than KDB, is getting the ball in like by the end line, and he's crossing it in, running onto the ball, and he still puts in a brilliant ball. So sometimes football is simple. You have Haaland, he's tall, big guy, 6'5", 6'4", whatever. Get the ball over to him. He'll out jump them. Get the ball, like at least get a chance. He's How many headers has he scored this season? I know it's maybe not all like just that plain and simple, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it definitely is. Sometimes. On Gundogan again. Last thing, man, yo, you need to sign the thing. You need to sign the thing. Like 1 year, 2 year, you need to stay. Like, for me, you're not leaving. I'm not selling you. I'm not leaving you, losing you on a free. I'm not. Like, you need to stay here, captain the team another season, or maybe Diaz is captain next season, but you still stay. I don't care how it goes, but you need to be here. On 2023 to 24 season, you still need to be a Manchester City player. That's my opinion. Like, you're too good for me to say, you know what, you might slow down in a year or two. So I'll let you go now. Nah, not for me. Not for me. So I want Gundogan to stay. That's my personal thoughts on that. Um, quickly as well, I want to speak on Laporte. He's the last player I want to well, not the last player. I will also speak on Foden just a little bit, but Laporte, for me, I noticed against Everton that he is much better when he's playing this position, which is the left-sided centre back in a back four, than when he's playing in this position and we invert. And Stones would be next to Rodri over there, and then Laporte would be in the back three with Diaz in the middle and Akanji on the right, or Walker on the right. I think he plays this centre back position much better than he does that left back slash centre back position. And I think it's because it's basically similar to asking Kyle Walker to invert. He's doing this for a majority of his career at City and at clubs that he's been at previously. So if you're going to suddenly change the system, he might not necessarily flourish in that role, or he might need more time to transition into this type of role based on what you're asking him to do. So in this specific case, even though he has played as a left back before, and there is clearly a drop off between him playing as a left back in a flat back four and him playing in this centre back position in a back four. Just imagine when there's one less defender and he's playing like left back slash centre back. It could go either way, and from what I've seen this season, he's still below that level that he shows when he's playing in this left-sided centre back role in the back four. And because he's still so good on the ball, you still get to see him transition the ball upfield. Like he'll get the ball, keep it, and go into the midfield similar to like Stones would do, because he has been doing that over the years as well, let's be honest. And I've asked the question before, can he play that Stones role and invert sitting next to Rodri? Maybe. I don't think we'll see it, and I don't think he will do it better than Stones, definitely not. But could he do a job there? It remains to be seen. Who knows? So yeah, just big up Laporte in his own way, because I'll be gutted if he does leave this season. I think he will based on the signs, but he's been a brilliant player for us. He's helped us win league titles in the past, and I think he could still help us in the future. But if he's not in Pep's plans, or if he's not willing to fight to get back into Pep's plans, then he'll just have to go, and we'll just have to see him off with our blessing. And I hope that it's not like a Sterling situation where he makes it worse for himself after leaving, or in how he leaves, and then the fans are resenting him at the end of it. So I really do hope it's like a gentleman's exit. We hope to see you um, find success further on in your career, just not here. But big up Laporte, man. For me, always gonna be my G, always. Phil Foden, our gem, our diamond, as Pep would say, brilliant player. I think he had a really good game on the left. I think he's still better on the right for me in terms of the dynamism he brings to the team. But I'm not gonna pretend like he doesn't have master classes off the left as well. Particularly in the game on Sunday, I think he was really good again. He didn't get a stat like a goal or assist, but if you look at him, he was very dangerous. And in the first half, when we were looking for opportunities before Gundogan's goal, it was Foden and Mars that our biggest chances were coming through. And I think personally the majority of those came through Foden. I don't know who the right back they had was, but Foden had him on toast. Like every time he got the ball, he just went at him with such pace and decisiveness, kind of like what we would get from Sterling at his best. And he was just giving him a very hard time. Even when they tried to double team him, it was the same. Like he was just fighting out of it, and that's why I respect Foden so much. He's a warrior. As much as he's like a very silky player with like top tier technique, like you can see him in the midfield when he's laying off his Trivela passes and no looks and all of that, like a KDB would, or like a Cancelo would. Why people love these flair players. But he's also a warrior. He's also a fighter. Like that determination he has to like beat his man or drive into the box. Like I love to see it, man. Like Foden, I think you have a very important part to play in the rest of this season. I think even if you don't start games, you when you do come, like you have to fight to come onto the pitch, and when you do come on, you have to show that same level of decisiveness. I always go back to that Newcastle game that we won 2-0 at the Etihad. That when Foden came back into the team that day, like not playing after a leg injury, you'd expect his level to somewhat drop, but no. This man was ready, and like, that was Foden saying, I am starting from this point forward. And I hope that you rediscover that form, and we'll talk about my plans for the Real Madrid game tomorrow in terms of who I want to start and the substitutions I want to see. So we'll talk soon, Foden. We'll definitely talk soon. But yeah, that is basically what I would sum up the Everton review as, and we can then transition into speaking about the Real Madrid game. So, Manchester City versus Real Madrid. At the Etihad Stadium, all to play for. The first leg was 1-1, and we take the second leg at the Etihad Stadium, which that game was sold out in a matter of hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, I believe. As soon as tickets went on sale, they were gone, 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 gone. And a lot of people were upset that they couldn't get tickets. Now, this is everyone knew that this would be one of the biggest games of the season, because you win against Madrid at home. I mean, you win against Madrid away, you're looking at a blockbuster game in the second leg where Madrid want revenge from that first leg beating they would have gotten, and Manchester City can make their second Champions League final in 3 years, and we can do it in front of our home fans. Now, this season we know we're on for a treble as well, so if we win against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, that second leg is like absolutely massive, because you don't even need to win at that point, and the treble is still on. Now we draw at Real Madrid, like what actually happened. No, again, it's a one-off game. It's basically like a one-legged semi-final, but we get to play it at home, which that is still in our benefit. If we look at what we did against Real Madrid last season when they came to the Etihad, I don't want to underestimate them, or people might see this as disrespectful, but Madrid didn't want it. The smoke that we had, they did not want it. Like, they were, I don't want to say lucky, but they were happy, very happy to have left the Etihad that day with only a 1 goal deficit, because the first goal that they scored was absolutely brilliant. Like, I don't, like, even after rewatching it, I don't know where I would even blame the defense on that. I think that was just a moment of brilliance from Benzema. Even Ederson, like, from where Benzema was and he shot it, the power that he got on it from, I think, his left foot, and it went so close into the post. Like, it was just perfect for him to get a goal in, and I think that brought the game to 2-1, if I'm not mistaken. Then he scores a penalty, and also Vinicius gets his goal against Fernandinho after Kyle Walker gets off of the pitch through injury. So there's a lot of here and there where you can look at and say, aside from his brilliant goal, a penalty can always be prevented. I think that penalty was absolutely rubbish anyway. No matter how many times I see it, I don't think that should have been a pen. Like, Diaz's foot gets to Benzema's foot like this, and he's falling, and it's not like he got crunched on top of his leg or anything. Like, he gets, basically kicks him in the side of his foot after both of them are reaching for a ball, and because it happens in the box, it's a penalty. I'm pretty sure if that happened to Haaland and it was Rudiger was a player that was doing that, that would not be a penalty. The ref would just look at him and say, get up, play on. So that was very weird. That can be prevented. And that goal against Vinicius, a lot of the players defensively, Rodri, Stones, Fernandinho, even Ederson, like, nobody put any pressure on Vinicius when he was charging through from this area here between Mars and Walker, because Fernandinho was up the pitch like here when he got spun, and then Vinicius ran from here all the way here to then score. And you can't let that happen. Like, somebody has to stop him, crunch him outside the box. Like, just do something, force him to pass it. Don't just let him walk into the box and get be that. I think he was even planning to shoot it, but pass it, but because no one closed him down, he's like, why not? Let me just have a go at it. I can score this, and he did. So fair play to Vinicius for that, but we have to do better. I think shutting off in moments like that cost us in the second leg at the Bernabeu, and again shutting off in the Bernabeu cost us again. So knowing Pep, I would assume that he would go over the previous games, like these semi-final legs and the game at the Bernabeu that we just played, review the film, and know that, you know what, we can't have another shut off at any point in time. We're at home. The fans are gonna help with that, with the atmosphere that they're going to bring. Mark my words, the atmosphere in the Etihad will be loud. It will be an immense atmosphere because the fans know what is at stake. Based the fans that I hear from anyway, that includes the match going fans, they're all very confident for this game. And they know what needs to be done in terms of the atmosphere, because most of them were at the Bernabeu last season when Real Madrid got their first goal that brought it to 1-1 on the day, and like 1-0 in our favor in terms of the aggregate score. They heard the roar from the Bernabeu fans. So they know this is what you need. That 12th man in the Etihad, that is what is going to get us to the final. And, Madrid is a team that would have played under these occasions many times. But you can't make it easier for them by just, library settings, and they just get to focus on their football. Nah, make it as hard as possible for them. Make them worry about, you know, like the brilliant passing that we're doing on the pitch, the fans roaring, and then you have to defend our team. The fans are still roaring when every attack we make, whether it's a goal or not, it's just getting a shot off. The fans will probably be hyped up for that. And every defensive block or interception that we make, anything of the sort, the fans will be roaring for that as well. So they'll be in for a long night, and every single missed pass or errant pass that they make, the fans are going to be roaring for that. And I just hope the referee doesn't have a big part to play in this game, as to where his calls affect the outcome of the game. Like, he gives an undeserved yellow card early to Rodri. Let me knock on wood for that. And that, leaves him to be even more pragmatic than he needs to be. And, we're basically playing with a cautious DM for a majority of the game, and they target him. And, he then ends up, makes it worse and gets a red card or something. That would be absolutely terrible to have an outcome like that. Big up to all the people who are tuning in, by the way. I saw some people just joined in. Big up yourself, and definitely hit that like button to help me out. 6 subscribers away from 50 as well, from 60. So help me get to that. I much appreciate you. And also feel free to leave me some comments in the chat. In regards to last season at the Bernabeu, I think the team let us down. I think Pep did what he needed to do, in terms of, if we didn't make those changes that we did and then we lost, people would have been like, oh, Pep again, he makes no changes, like, why didn't we bring on Fernandinho and play a double pivot and see out the game like that? Why didn't we bring in a fresh defender and bring on Grealish to retain the ball and maintain possession and see out the game for 2 minutes? But that's what he did. If you look at the context of the subs that Pep made in the Bernabeu, they were good subs. I was very happy with the subs that he made. What I wasn't happy with is how the players seem to have shut off. Ruben Dias, I think you're at fault for that. As much as you're my G and I have so much respect for you, I think you are the future captain of Manchester City after Gundogan. You were at fault for that. For you were one of those players that I think would feel hard done by that result and have that resentment in feeling that you kind of let us down on the day. And it's the same for Laporte. I think in that space where Rodrigo is in between the two of them, the ball gets crossed in. I don't think Diaz even jumps to contest it. And Laporte, I think he jumps way too early, so the ball just goes right over his head. So I think both of them will have that in the back of their head, that, you know what, we have to make it up to the fans. Laporte might not play. I'm not counting him out. It's Pep, he might start him. Even though I don't think he'll start, I think, you never know what might happen in the game where he needs to come on for someone. I hope that doesn't happen either, but still, like, these players still have their role to play, and even if they're on the bench, they have to have that mental readiness to know that if they are called upon, they need to immediately get to the level of the game. There's no bedding in. You don't get 5 minutes to pass the ball around. We're playing Real Madrid. This is the semifinals of the Champions League. It's going to be May 17th, so business end of the season. The season has less than a month at that point until it's closing. So you don't get to work your way into games at this point. You need to be there. Like, you need to be on the bench thinking, I don't know if I'm going to get on today, but the amount of focus that I'm going to have from the bench, it's not going to even affect me if I do get onto the pitch. That's what I want to see from my players, and I think that's what we need when we're chasing a treble. So that's the type of energy I want to see from the guys. Big up Phil Foden in the chat also. I appreciate you being here again. Yeah, Ruben Diaz disaster class that day. Man. And I think we played I think all of our players played so well up until after those changes. I think the changes that I don't even think it's necessarily the players who got subbed on were to blame, but the players who were on the pitch, it's like after they saw the changes come in, that is where they started relaxing, like, oh, game's almost done. I remember watching Big Steve MCFC on YouTube. He said that he was in the stadium in the Bernabeu that day, and when it was like just before Rodrigo scored his first goal, he was thinking to himself, man, Liverpool in the final. I'm gonna be in Paris eating croissants, and in 2 minutes that absolutely changed. I think it's similar for the players. They were there thinking, you know what? We're gonna go to Paris. Like, we did it. We did the job. We played well. It was a bit shaky in the first leg. We should have done better, but we made up for it today and we did what we needed to do. Except there was still a job that needed to be done. And Real Madrid knew that. So we need to know, and the players need to know, that Real Madrid know that they're coming up against it. You could see after that first leg, they were not happy with that 1-1. That period of time after the 30 minutes up until KDB scored, they had all the ascendancy in the game. They had the majority of the chances in that period of time, and they only have one goal to show for it. One goal. So, and then they did concede, so that goal gets automatically wiped out. So it's basically like they forfeited their home game and now they only have the away game to play. They're not going to be happy with that. So we need to capitalize on that, knowing that, they also know that they have to win. We know that we have to win. Don't make it a basketball game to where it's end to end and both teams are sharing chances. I want to see a performance similar to Bayern Munich at home. And if you actually look at our trajectory in the Champions League this season, where we have an RB Leipzig, in that first leg against Leipzig, we played away. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I believed that we would have won on the day. And furthermore, I knew that if the second leg is at the Etihad, the confidence that gives me, I have no doubt that we would get past RB Leipzig over 2 legs. Now, in the context of the first game, the first half was more even than I thought it would be, but this is the Champions League. RB Leipzig at that point in time were within 1 or 2 points away from both Dortmund and Bayern. So they were having a really good season at that point in time when we played them. And the first half showed that this team isn't like a play team that you're just gonna slap 3-0 at their ground and then 3-0 again at home. No, we can talk about the second leg at home after, but in the second half of that first leg, they had the ascendancy for that half. They were the better team in that second half, as a matter of fact, and they had a goal that basically brought them back into the game. What we did well is keeping them to only one goal and not scoring first and then losing the first leg 2-1. Because in that case, I think they come to the Etihad with much more belief than they normally would do. So we draw 1-1 away to them, in which we had penalty shouts, but let's not even get to that. And Then we have the second leg where we get the job done. We blitz them 7 goals. Haaland gets 5. He's up. People were saying where was Haaland in the first leg away in Germany, but they weren't looking for him when at Etihad. That's his feasting ground. Remember the goal? I think he scored more goals at the Etihad than he has away. That's not like a mad stat or anything because you'd normally expect him to, but if you look at how many hat tricks he scored at home this season, I think doesn't he have like 5 or 6, something mad like that? So when it comes to his home form, this guy is no joke. This guy he's him. Let's get that clear. He is him. So if you look at that Bayern Munich game now, we played the first leg at home now, and it was a really professional performance in terms of the chances that Bayern Munich had. Their best chance of the game was that Musiala shot, in which Ruben Dias came up with a brilliant, brilliant block to keep it 0-0 at that point in time. And that was, I think, maybe 10 minutes before Roger opened the scoring with his brilliant curler outside the box. So, and it was, again, Musiala who he chopped up outside the box to produce that. But, no, that's not a dig on Musiala, by the way. But from that, you then see Bayern opening up more, and they're coming at us to get a goal, at least one goal, to keep the hopes alive in the second leg, because their plan was always to bring it back to the Allianz to get the job done. They were trying to do what we did against Real Madrid or against RB Leipzig. They wanted, if they had gotten a 1-1 result at the Etihad, they would have been so glad with that result, knowing that in the second leg, they're coming back to the Allianz. Their home fans, their home support, they have the heritage, they have the belief. They were having a fairly good season at that point in time, and they would have been buzzing with that result. But instead, they got beat 3-0. We did the job in the first leg, so that then puts a huge steep mountain for Bayern Munich to climb, even though they're at home. And you saw what happened there. It was 1-1. That's the best that they could do because they tried to get more out of that game, but we defended so well, and our system was just so compact and perfectly set up to counteract what they had to do. If we look at the Real Madrid game, you were speaking about how the boxing midfield in the back three system, where you would see Stones next to Rodri, and the 5 players up top, the flat four and Haaland up top. You would see that as a good counter for Real Madrid's formation, because that box limits Benzema, and you saw Benzema didn't really have much to do at the Bernabeu. He didn't really get a chance to do anything. And even though we lost the midfield battle for a large portion of the game, the game in itself, in its entirety, was kind of 50-50, because we had our share of dominating the midfield where Madrid couldn't get a touch on the ball. They had their share in which they produced the same. So in my opinion, I would say that's a 50-50 game. Now, the issue for Real Madrid is that that's what we wanted. So when we look at the second leg now, we are basically set up to do what we did against Leipzig. Not in terms of the score lines, but in terms of getting the job done in the first leg, keeping ourselves in and keeping our noses in front, and stopping Bayern Munich from doing that same thing is what we did in the quarterfinals. Now, in the context of this game, in the second leg, we now have the opportunity again to win this game, one-off game, whether it's 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, 5-6, 10-9. I don't care what the result is, so long as we win on the day, because that's all we need to do to progress. Real Madrid know that it's the same thing, and that's why it's a shootout. RB Leipzig would have known that it's a shootout in the second leg in the round of 16. But the difference is that's where we thrive. Where you open up and give us space, that's where it's better for us. Now, what I'm worried about in regards to this Real Madrid game is that they come to us and just try to be as defensively structured as possible. Because for us, I think we need an early goal or two, because the longer the game goes on, it's more of an opportunity for them to take one moment and get into the game. So if it's 0-0 at like 70th minute, I'll be sweating hard, because they just need one moment to capitalize on, and they have a 1-0 lead, and then our backs are against the wall even though we're at home. I said previously as well that in my opinion, I think Real Madrid if not the best team, then at least one of the best, top three in terms of taking their moments and taking their chances. Because that's what they've built their heritage on. Even if they're up against a team that's a better footballing team than them, they can still take one or two moments away from that game, put them away, be very clinical, and that's how they make their way onto the next round because that's what you need to do in the Champions League. So with that in mind, I hope we know that we need to take our moments. And I've seen all the disrespect on Haaland's name since that first leg. Bro, I am expecting a massive game from you tomorrow. And I know that you know there'll be tons of fans in that stadium with your shirt on hoping that you will do a madness for us. And the sense of responsibility that you have with this team, you know that you're the talisman. So I don't even need to be telling you that we're expecting to see something from you. You're expecting something from yourself. And I know that you'll be up for it. I'll be one of those guys here in front of the TV screaming, hoping that you get a chance because your name is the one that's on the back of my jersey. So you're the one I'm looking to again. KDB, you're another player I know that you will come up in the game. I'm not doubting that. Similar to the first leg, you were the guy. You were him. You were the one that stood up, took the ball, and said, you know what? We're not going to be able to walk the ball into the box with this. In the first half, that's what we were trying to do. All of our shots, bar like Rodri's shot from outside the box, which barely had any power on it, were like inside the box. KDB was like, you know what? They scored from outside the box. They knew that they had to do, try a one thing. If Vinicius kicked that ball over the crossbar, he's not too pressed about that. He's you know what, we go again. I'll probably take that same exact shot again. That's the type of mentality Vinicius Jr. has when he's playing. So it was good to see Kevin De Bruyne do that literal same thing. Like shooting the ball outside the box is literally the same as like just switching it up slightly. Because if they know now that we're shooting from outside the box, when we have the ball outside their area, they're just as worried because they don't know if we'll take another shot outside the box or now decide that we want to put the ball inside. So it's basically what Vinicius thrives on, the unpredictability. You gain more unpredictability when you start taking shots outside the box. So yeah, Grealish is another player that I'm looking at. Let me actually show you guys a lineup that I personally would go for. And yeah, let's just move this stuff around. I would do the back three formation where you have two in midfield, like someone right there next to Rodri, which would normally be Stones. I think Foden will play on the right. Really should play on the left. Alright, now let's uniform this a little bit better. Yeah, let's uniform this a little bit better. Yeah, he left the M and basically this. But he'd be right there next to Rodri. So this is the lineup that I think Pep will go with. Nathan Ake won't be available, so Akanji will step in. I'm not sure if he's traveling with the squad, but Pep said he's not playing. So let's do something like this. I think this will also be the bench that we'll set up with. So yeah, Akanji on the left, Diaz in the center, Kyle Walker on the right. Similar to what we did in the first leg. Ederson in goal, obviously. Rodri and Stones playing that pivot in the midfield for control. I think at points in time, you'll see Stones drop back into that back line and make it a 4, and it will be like a 4-1-4-1, because I've seen us play like that as well this season. And obviously, you'll have Gundogan and De Bruyne at the top, portion of the box in that midfield where we will hope to have control like we usually do at the Etihad. And Phil Foden going up against their left back, whether that is Kamavinga or Alaba or Ferland Mendy, I think Foden has the beating of any one of them. And Jack Grealish on the left going up against Carvajal again. So the only alteration I would personally do to this is to bring in Bernardo Silva for Foden, in which that would be the exact lineup that Pep had sent out in Spain. But I do think that Bernardo Silva kind of struggled in that game. And I don't think that is necessarily all on him. He didn't really have a lot of help in the midfield since De Bruyne was kind of really high up next to Haaland and Stones was kind of low next to Diaz in that centre back area. He was much closer to Diaz than he was to Bernardo anyway. He was kind of isolated on that side for the majority of the game. Well, for the central part of the game where Real Madrid had most of the ascendancy. So I think if we set up like this and Kamavinga plays left back, I think that will give us a better chance of breaking them down from this right hand side than we would have with Bernardo Silva on the right hand side. And the reason I have for that is because Kamavinga is a type of player. He, as a left back, I think he thrives more in the defensive area than a Ferland Mendy would. So Ferland Mendy, I would say he's more balanced in terms of like offense and defense. I think Kamavinga is better than Ferland Mendy defensively and maybe on par with him offensively. So as a defensive midfielder playing in that position, you know that he's going to be defensively strong and he's also an aggressive player. So pairing up someone like Bernardo Silva against him who will want to slow down the game, I don't necessarily think that is the best matchup. And I said this before the first leg. So when I saw the game playing out and I saw, Bernardo Silva starting to slow down and then trying to beat him with a burst of pace, Kamavinga will just take the ball every single time because he faces wingers like this all the time. This is what he thrives on as a left back, as a makeshift left back at least. Because people think that, oh, he's not a left back, so let me just try to outsmart him or out trick him. Kamavinga is a very smart player, so I think you need to kind of just go at him. Like, don't give him any time to think. Just match up with him and use your pace and your trickery every single. Don't be discouraged if he even takes the ball from you the first 2 or 3 times. Keep going at him. Be relentless. Get the ball. Go at him with pace. The same thing that we always want Sterling to do back in the day when he's going up against his fullback. Because for Sterling, when he's doing this, there are very few wingers in the world that are in the Premier League that can stop him. So for Foden, I think he's at that point now from what I've seen this season playing off the right and even in previous seasons playing off the right. Fullbacks find it very difficult to cope with him on that right hand side. And even if he doesn't start, I do think that coming onto the pitch, that could be something that we can do to inject some more danger on that right hand side for me personally. I think when Bernardo plays there, he's really dependent on De Bruyne to help him out with the overlap and basically doubling up on that fullback. I think that also works, but with Foden, you can do that and isolate him 1v1 with Kamavinga, and I'm still absolutely calm. I'm not worried at all because that's the courage that Foden gives me from what I've seen him do. So this is the lineup that I've personally gone for, and similarly to Foden, Jack Grealish, I think you have basically the exact same role to play in this game. Pep already said that he wants to be more aggressive in terms of chance creation at home, and obviously that was the plan after seeing how pragmatic we were at the Bernabeu. I expected us to be pragmatic at the Bernabeu. I didn't expect us to be that pragmatic at the Bernabeu though. But that's fine. That's calm because we got the 1-1 result I wanted. But now we're at the Etihad where we know that we have to win if we want to go through. There's no room for a draw. There's no room for a loss and we come back next week and try to make it up. No. You have to win the game right now if you want to make it to the final. And, a lot of people don't want to invest in this treble yet. But for me, if we beat Real Madrid tomorrow, my neck is on the line because I'm saying treble every day. Anybody asks me if we're winning the treble, yeah, Why not? One more game to win the league, one more game to win the FA Cup, one more game to win the Champions League. If we get past Real Madrid, and only if we get past Real Madrid, I will have so much chest on this treble talk. And to pair that up, I also said if in the Champions League final, hopefully we get there, pray to God. If we get to the Champions League final and we are winning, and I see the crowd break out in a Poznan, rival fans, beware. I will be there no matter what. I will be there, and you will see that everywhere. Trust me. Phil Foden says, yeah, I would be more confident in saying that treble will be ours after Real Madrid. 100%. I think, with no disrespect to any of the teams that we have to play from now to the end of the season, except Chelsea and Man United, all the disrespect to them. But with all the respect to everybody else, I think Real Madrid is like the biggest boulder in our path, per se. So if we get past them, just like how we would get that boost of confidence when we're in the title race and we see Liverpool drop points, I think we'll get that boost of confidence passing a giant, a European giant like Real Madrid in their competition in the Champions League. Remember in 2020, no, that was the 1920 season. I'm bugging. But yeah, if you look even earlier in the season against Bayern, that gave us a boost of confidence because we passed a European giant like Bayern, and the team just did not stop. It just kept on rolling, and the team just kept on performing week after week. And now we're in this position where the treble hopes are still alive, and we're against Real Madrid. A lot of people were saying we were getting beaten at the Bernabeu. Do not forget that. People, and I'm not talking about City fans. City fans will always back the team for the most part. I know, Cityitis where we all get super worried that might come into play, but for the most part, City fans always back the team. The rival fans and the neutrals, there were very few of them backing City to get anything at the Bernabeu. Not even a draw. They were all saying, 2-0 Real Madrid, 3-1 Real Madrid, 3-0 Real Madrid. I saw these types of predictions. We end up getting 1-1. So we're already outdoing their expectations of us. And now we're at home where again they expect us to lose again. The odds are all stacked against us. People want to play underdog story with Real Madrid, but at the same time, Real Madrid is the team that has 14 Champions Leagues slash European honors. So they're the biggest team in the world. They are the Galacticos. They have multiple Champions League winners in their team, and I'm talking 4s and 5s. Their manager has won 4 Champions Leagues himself. So if you look at all this type of stuff, how are Real Madrid the underdogs? What about that is underdog energy? And all throughout the year, for several years, I'm hearing City have no history, City have no Champions League, don't talk until you get a Champions League. How are we the favorites then? Especially against a team like Real Madrid who've been there, done that, and that is exactly the reason why they think Madrid is going to beat us. So you think Madrid is going to win, but we are the underdogs. Let me tell you why rival fans do this. Because in that situation, if we win, they can clearly say, you were the favorites to win anyway. You're the favorites to win the whole competition. Let's not talk until after you win the whole competition. Because even when we beat Real Madrid in 2020, in the 1920 season, they were all like, oh, it's no big deal because you're not going to win the Champions League anyway. No one wanted to talk about that. They were saying the only reason why we won was because Varane had a shit show in both of the games. But not because we were absolutely brilliant and our game plan paid off and the players did exactly what we needed to do to get our results. Not that. And now you're expected to win the whole Champions League. So if we do win it, or get past a tough opponent, they'll say, oh, it's nothing until you win it. And then when we win it, you are expected to win it. But if we don't win it, they want to get the biggest, broadest stick to beat us with. And say, oh, you see, this is why you're a small club. This is why you're this, that. That's why I just stopped listening to rival fans. And I implore you guys to do the same. For the most part. I'm not saying never listen to another rival fan, but as soon as you hear them start, being disingenuous about Manchester City and giving us our deserved props, just tune them off, man. Just it's it's no use, filling yourself up with all this negative energy when we're having such a brilliant season and we are in a position to make this a historic season. Like if we win the Premier League only, we've still had a brilliant season. And I don't care what anyone else wants to say about that. I understand there will be that feeling of slight disappointment because we could have had more. We could also win a FA Cup and a Champions League. So if we don't, it will kind of feel like a letdown. But that does not take away from this being a brilliant season. Similar to Arsenal, they've had a brilliant season. They're probably not going to win the league, so people are gonna say, it's a terrible season and things like that. But they finished fifth last season after battling top four. Yes, they battled the league this season, but they're finishing second for sure. They're guaranteed a second place finish at least, and they have cleared 80 points, which I don't think any other team is going to do this. I don't think another team can get to 80 points this season. I'm not entirely sure about that, but they've had a brilliant season for their standards and their objectives, especially at the start of the season. So us winning the Premier League alone shouldn't be seen as a negative thing, like we didn't do enough. It's that we could have done more, but we didn't do more. That's a completely different situation. Um, the next thing I want to speak on is, hold on. Phil Foden says, I would want 2 out of 3 trophies personally, but with the things that happened this season, I would take it. So I'm rolling back again to a couple of months ago, but a couple of months ago, when we signed Haaland, a cousin of mine who supports Manchester United was like, "Oh, you better win the Champions League now. You bought Haaland. You didn't buy Haaland to win the league. So what are you doing this season?" I said, honestly, I get that you might have that perspective, but for me personally, I just want 2 trophies. And if we get 2 trophies this season, that's a very good season for me. The only thing I will specify with that is that I want at least one of the big ones. So if we get an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup, as much as I'm accepting those trophies, I'm still gonna feel like we didn't fulfill our season expectations by not bringing home one of the big ones. So if that is a Premier League and a Carabao Cup, I'm taking that. If that's the Premier League and the FA Cup, I'm taking that. And I'm sure you know that if it's the Premier League and the Champions League, I am 100% taking that. And if it's the Champions League and any one of the domestic competitions, cup competitions, I'm taking that as well. So that's still a successful season in my opinion. But like Phil Foden again says in the chat, we had the Cancelo situation go on where, the entire dressing room is in disarray. And that's not even just Cancelo, because from what Pep said, there are a few players that were unhappy and causing the mood in the dressing room to kind of shift in a negative direction. So Cancelo was just at the pinnacle of that, and he might have been a catalyst in that as well, because after he left, things have clearly calmed down and the team has been able to settle after that. So if you look at that situation, that definitely affected our season, and this was at the end of the January window. So we're going into the second half of the season, the business end, and the only competition we were out of was the Carabao Cup. So all 3 trophies were still on the table just like now, and a big thing like this is happening. That's not great. Then you look at the charges that we got. This is like a week after the Cancelo situation, or 2 weeks after the Cancelo situation at most. And again, it kind of feels like everything is against you, especially when this happens and all the rival fans are saying, "Oh, they're accused, that means they're guilty. We don't need to take this to court." No, everybody knows that they did whatever they said they did, because half of them didn't even read the charges. They just saw 100 plus charges and was like, "Oh yeah, man, they're already guilty. Just send them all to jail now. Take back all their Premier Leagues and their medals, and give it to whoever came second place," which is absolutely dumb in my opinion. So and Pep changing the system multiple times. You're absolutely right, Phil Ford, and I agree. But I think the latter of that has actually been more to our benefit, because earlier in the season when we were playing the flat back four and then transitioned into the back three, and then with the inverting, that, like, in all those periods, we've still found success in all the play styles. It's just that I feel like our biggest problem this season in terms of dropping points and bad results have been individual performances, not necessarily systematic performances or systematic errors. But that's just my opinion on that. I do know some of the charges are nonsense because if you look at it, 100 plus, they're not going to be. I doubt you can find 100 different rules for us to break without like five of them being the exact same thing but a slight tweak, which is basically what the charges are. So a lot of them fall under like the same general umbrella, like us not negotiating with the cooperation is that counts for like 30% of the charges or 30 of the 100 plus charges. So if you actually read through them and you see what they're saying, like us, we already know that City isn't cooperating with the investigation. This is the same thing what happened with UEFA. We didn't feel like we should be getting investigated, and we were, so we didn't want to cooperate. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. But the team, the club clearly made their decision and they stood by it. And at the end of the day, that's the only thing they got fined for. So that's the only thing they were found guilty on. Currently, it's basically the same thing. The club doesn't feel like we should be getting investigated at this point in time. So they chose not to cooperate. I don't think this is a standard procedure. I think this is more like a witch hunt in a way. I think that's what the club are personally feeling as to why they decided that they don't want to cooperate. So if you're gonna say, oh, you're not cooperating with us checking the length of your grass, and you're not cooperating with us checking your financial books, those are already two charges out of nowhere. And if you want to, they could have even said this specific financial book and this specific financial book, and that's already three charges. So it's just weird how they stack it up to say 100 just for the headlines. But it's Manchester City. If we wore red, they wouldn't have the same energy to do this type of stuff for us. But I digress. We speak on Real Madrid tomorrow. This is an absolutely massive game, and I'm always going to have respect for the heritage that Real Madrid has to offer in this competition and in any competition really. They are Real Madrid. They deserve that respect. They've been here and done this type of situation before and gone through. The difference is it's now our time to go through in this situation. And another agenda point from rivals and the media is that the same heritage thing that they want us to respect. They say Madrid has all this history and heritage, so we have to respect them and don't, you can't say certain things about how they operate, and you can't exactly like expect to walk over them, which is again understandable. But at the same point in time, when you talk about history, sometimes it goes in our favor. Like for example, I saw Big Steve again on his show earlier. He had a chat with a few Real Madrid fans from the Let's Be Real podcast, and he said to them that since 2018 we haven't lost at the Etihad in the Champions League, and that spans 25 games at the moment. So they said, history is there to be written, and records are there to be broken. But why can't you apply that same thing to Manchester City beating Real Madrid in the Champions League in the semi-final? We've done it before, like in terms of won a semi-final leg against them at home, and we've done it before in terms of beating them home and away in a Champions League running, and this was just 3 years ago. So if you want to specify and pick and choose which stats you want to use and which, like, how can you adjust this to benefit Real Madrid but not give props to Manchester City, you can go ahead and do that. But for me, I look at things from both perspectives. I look at things on how Real Madrid is going to be looking at this. And if their perspective is, they have this massive record at the Etihad in which Real Madrid has never won at the Etihad before, ever. And they have not beaten, well, obviously not beaten Manchester City at the Etihad under Pep, of course. But they haven't won at the Etihad ever since the Etihad became the Manchester City Stadium. So they're looking at these stats and saying we're coming to break these stats. Well, we're coming to stop you from getting your 15th Champions League this season. If you want to do that in another season in the future, go right ahead. If We might not have anything to do in terms of stopping you from getting that, but we have something to say about it right now. So we need to get our job done, do what we need to do, and stop you from winning this number 15 and make us win our number one. Because that's all we care about. I said the same thing in regards to playing Southampton in the Premier League a couple weeks ago. You know, Southampton and even Everton, these are teams that are fighting for their lives at the bottom of the table. So when them are come to us, or we are going to Fulham Stadium, they're thinking, you know, we have to win today to stay in the division. But we're thinking we have to win today if we want to win the league. We can't be thinking, you know, Southampton have to win today if they want to stay in the division. That has nothing to do with us. If Southampton and Everton stay in the league, that doesn't put another trophy in our cabinet. So we need to worry about our season and what the best we can do for our season. And right now, the task at hand is beat Real Madrid. Do I think we can beat Real Madrid in a one-off game? 100%. And all the confidence that I need if I'm ever lacking it, and if you guys are ever lacking it, just go back and watch that first leg game against them in the Champions League semifinals last year, where we beat them 4-3, and we had our litter of chances that we didn't take. And if you also want to go ahead and watch a highlight reel of Erling Haaland's goals this season and all the positions he's taking up, combine the two, like have Haaland in this game, completely different game, completely different outcome. To be, even if Haaland played in that game last season, I don't even think we conceded 3 goals in the first leg, because we would have been, it would have just been a completely different game in general. I think us missing some of those chances were the catalyst to Real Madrid like taking those moments. So if you actually look at it that way, if we handle our game properly, there's not much Real Madrid can do. And I understand completely where people are. Even last season, Real Madrid got counted out so many times, and even in the first leg, in the round of 16 game against PSG, I mean, they played the first leg and they lost 2-0, I think, or 1-0, and then in the second leg they came back. They just overturned it with a Benzema hat trick. In the quarterfinal game, it was Chelsea. They beat Chelsea in the first leg, and then Chelsea comes up with a comeback, and they were actually set to go through by 80 minutes in the game, and then they capitulated, similar to what we did in our second leg. And then Real Madrid come to us. We waste our chances in the first leg. We take our one chance in the second leg, and we sleep for 2 minutes, and they take that immediately. Like, absolutely. The moment they see you shut off, that's when the eyebrow goes up from Ancelotti, and he's like, yo, it's time to strike now. They're sleeping. And that's when they take their moments. That's when their efficiency increases from 70% to 100%. We just need to make sure that when they're at their best and fighting for a goal at the Etihad, our defense is at our best, clashing with them and making it as difficult for them as possible. Now, as it relates to score predictions, my score prediction is 2-0 Manchester City. And I think this would be a statement win if we were to achieve that. The other alternative way I see this going is a 2-1 Manchester City, or it might go to extra time. I don't think that in 90 minutes we will lose the game. I'll be very surprised if that happens, and needless to say, very disappointed as well. Also, big up to whoever just joined in. I much appreciate you being here. Just quickly hit that like button if you haven't already, and I'm 6 away from 60 subscribers, so do me a big favor with that. The goal is to get to 100 by the end of the year, so hopefully we can make that happen. Now, 2-0 is my personal prediction, and I think Haaland gets both of them. I think he will have a vendetta in this game. Like, people have been counting him out. I think KDB again is going to come up and show his class. I think Gundogan will have a chip on his shoulder because he would have felt hard done by his performance in the first leg and want to make up for that in this game. I already saw a bit of a bounce back from him in the first leg in the Everton game yesterday. So if that is anything to go by, he'll have another monster game again tomorrow, and he knows that we'll need him. He's our captain. He has a massive role to play in terms of us controlling the game, similar to Rodri, similar to Stones, similar to KDB. That box will be absolutely important, and I think we'll do them. I think we'll get the job done. 2-0, and that's a massive statement to make because that means Real Madrid does not get a goal at the Etihad. And I'm going to say a bit of the confidence from that comes from beating Bayern Munich 3-0 at Etihad, and I know Bayern Munich is not Real Madrid. I'm not trying to compare them in terms of form this season or in terms of quality in their squads or anything like that. But in terms of how much we raise our level for an opponent of this caliber, and we're playing in the Champions League, this is a massive team with the heritage in this competition, with the staff and board that know what it takes, the managers that know what it takes, and the team that know what it takes. So they have the heritage all through their entire team structure. And Real Madrid is another team of this ilk. So we need to raise our level to that level and then have a similar performance. And I think that we can shut them out. I think we definitely can. I'd be a bit more confident if we had Nathan Ake at his best and had Akanji in the team still, or me, it would be between Akanji and Kyle Walker. But for this particularly, I'm not entirely worried because Kyle Walker has shown that he can handle a Vinicius Jr. He has shown that, so I don't see why he can't come out and do it again. Fun fact: Kyle Walker was not dribbled past once in the game against Real Madrid at the Bernabeu last week, not once. And Vinicius still scored a goal, but we all know that the bread and butter of Vinicius' game is one-on-one duels. That's where he takes on his fullback, and he's very confident in the way he plays. He backs himself to beat any fullback on the planet. So the fact that he couldn't get past Kyle Walker, I think that has a massive role to play in the second leg because he'll have that playing on his mind. He'll want to make retribution for that if he gets the opportunity to. And Kyle Walker knows the job that he has to do. He knows that's exactly why he's in the team. That 1v1 specialist from a defensive standpoint ability that he has, I think that he knows that he has his role to play in that regard. So I think the team will get the job done. Haaland to score both goals, and I'll say Foden and KDB with the assists. That's my prediction for the game, and that's pretty much all I had to speak about as well. Phil Foden again says, true, missed chances led to Real Madrid lethal finishing 100%. In terms of taking their moments, man, you're not gonna find a team that's much better than them. Like this is their competition and they know it. So if you want to beat them in the Champions League, you have to take it from them. You have to earn it from them. You can't get lucky and beat Real Madrid in the semifinals of the Champions League. It doesn't work like that. You have to go and deserve it. And I think that the team, especially after how last season played out, knows that we have to fight and deserve it this season. And we have a chance to make up for what happened in the previous years or last year in particular, given that Real Madrid is the team we're playing again. So the team will know that they have a chance to make it up to us, and the fans in the stadium and even the fans online who still have their role to play will know that if we want to make this treble happen, this is the game that we'll look back at and say, you know what, we won this game, and that is a big part of winning the treble. Because if you don't win this game, you never know what might happen for the rest of the season. Again, we only need one win to win the Premier League. That might end up being the only trophy that we win this season. Maybe losing to Real Madrid costs us the FA Cup final as well. I don't know for sure, and to be honest with you, I don't want to figure it out because I want to win the treble. And if we win this game tomorrow, again, I'm going to say the treble will come to Manchester, and it will be on the blue side. It will be Manchester City, and I'm just really hoping that the team can get this done for us. I think the fans definitely deserve it, and I think the legends that we have in this club currently definitely deserve it. I think Gundogan to be that first captain to lift the Champions League trophy for us, that would be absolutely massive. If I had to choose, with all due respect, I would choose the first captain to be Vinny because he's my favorite Manchester City captain of all time. Also, Fernandinho, close second. I've always rated Fernandinho, so if he had won it for us, that would have been absolutely massive as well. But Gundogan, especially in a season where we're thinking he might be leaving, you know, that that would be an absolutely massive claim in our club history for him to do that. And Kevin De Bruyne, he needs to win his Champions League. I think a player of his quality needs multiple, to be honest with you. But we'll start with one, and then we'll have the conversations up until he eventually leaves the club. And other players in the squad, I definitely think would want to get the Champions League under their belt, and that would breathe another level of hunger to go again in future years, even if we don't end up winning it next year. So that's all I have to say for this game. Big up to everybody who tuned in. I had the girl RK and Phil Foden in here. So big up to both of you guys for leaving me comments, and all the silent viewers as well who didn't decide to leave comments. Big up yourself, same way. And help me guys to get to 60 subscribers. I'm almost there, and I want to get to 100 before the end of the year. So if you have subscribed already, just continue to hit the like button every time I get to streaming. I'm trying to be as consistent as possible. And if you haven't, then you can still like the stream, but also subscribe and help me get there. Just be a part of the journey, and you know the clinical society, born from the Haalands and the Agueros, the goal scorers that we love to see. That's where my passion for football comes from. So that's why I'm named Clinical. So be a part of the journey, be a part of the team, and let's experience Manchester City create history. This would be a historic achievement, like two Champions League finals in 3 years, and we could win our first Champions League in our second ever final, and then win a treble in the same season, and we're doing the three-peat. This is absolutely massive, and I hope I can experience and celebrate it with all of you guys, honestly. So once again, big up for tuning in. Thanks for being here, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. The next one will be tomorrow, actually, because I will be streaming before the game, and I'll probably start at 1 and I'll start at 1:30 or I'll start at 1:15 and or 1 and go until 2 or 2:30. I don't want to stream directly until the start of the game because I do have a couple of stuff to do before the actual start of the game. So I'll probably start around 1. Yeah, I'll aim for 1 p.m. and go until about 2:15, 2:30 latest, and shut off around there so we can all have a little bit of pre-game vibes, get some energy up, and lead into this massive, biggest game of the season so far, with some good vibes and some energy and some hope and some belief, and let's back the team and get the job done. It's been a good one. Again, big up brother, big up yourself, Phil Foden, 100%, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. Until next time.